Welcome to the Marketing Millennials, the No BS Marketing Podcast. I'm Daniel Murray, and join me for unfiltered conversations with the brains behind marketing's coolest companies. The one request I tell our guests, stories or it didn't happen. Get ready to turn the up.
We are back with another episode of the Marketing Millennials podcast, and Ross is back for another episode on the Marketing Millennials podcast, but we also have to retake this podcast because, technology glitches sometimes, and we actually had such a good recording, so hopefully this one is as good as the first take, but I'm excited. He's also the coolest cool, and Ross, you want to give a little quick intro who you are, and then we'll get into the topic today?
Yeah, I'm thrilled to be back. This is, I think, maybe a three-peat. This might be the third time on, so I'm excited to be back on the Marketing Millennials. I'm Ross Simmonds, founder of a company called Foundation Marketing. We work with B2B brands, helping them scale their content engines. We've been doing that for quite some time, helping them increase their visibility in the various AI platforms today. I'm also the author of a book called Create Once, Distribute Forever. I'm also the founder of a company called Distribution.ai. I'm a dad of 3. I am based on the East Coast of Canada. I do a lot of public speaking, love business, love marketing, love growth, love all things related to social and beyond. So super excited to be here. Looking forward to another chat, this time with perfection on the internets.
I want to get first landscape out of the way. So SEO has been around for a while, and the tactics you talk about for a long time has worked for SEO, but some people have been ignoring it for the years at SEO. But now there's new terms coming on like GEO and AEO and AIO, and there's a bunch of terms. Do you want to just give the current landscape of like what's happening in search right now, and then we can get into like the nitty gritty of it?
Yeah, if you went back in time, say 10 years ago, everyone who talked about search engine optimization was essentially talking about how can you show up on Google. And I'd argue even 6 years ago, they were talking about the same thing. And while I was oftentimes preaching to marketers and at conferences about, yes, okay, if we care about Google, let's care more about other things outside of our own website, such as YouTube, such as Reddit, such as Medium, such as LinkedIn, because all of those things are also places where people can discover your brand, and people do search on Google, but YouTube videos show up. People do search on things like Instagram and videos show up, content shows up. We should be actually creating content across multiple platforms and actually living up to this idea of search engine optimization instead of going down a path of pure play Google engine optimization. Now, today, we live in a whole different world, a world where discovery has been so fragmented that search happens on a bunch of different platforms with the rise of AI. And now people are starting to pay attention. ChatGPT, Grok, Claude, Perplexity, you name it. All of these platforms are new ways in which people are discovering answers to questions, which are very much similar to the behavior that we once had on Google. Now, what we've preached at Foundation for a long time is this idea of distribution, that you should not just create content on your website, but that you should distribute it on multiple platforms as well, whether that's distributing your story on a review site, distributing your story on YouTube, distributing your stories through influencers. You need to distribute your stories in multiple ways. LLMs happen to love that because they are looking for citations across multiple URLs that are all weighted differently based off of whether or not they trust these URLs. And then they're using that information, analyzing it, and determining based off of that content what the answer is directly inside of that LLM. Google's doing the same thing with the rollout of Gemini, AI mode, Google AI overviews. Impressions for a lot of websites are up, but their clicks are at an all-time low. And this is, again, because of the rise of AI. So what do we recommend brands do? Is simple. Increase your surface area. You need to show up on as many different platforms as possible with a positive sentiment about your brand and about your story. And then you need to ensure that that content is citable by the LLMs so you can ensure that when that answer is coming back to a user who just asks, what is the best ABC or what's the top LMNOP, they're getting an answer that is using your content across multiple platforms as the training data to answer that question. So long story, a little bit longer. I know this is a long rant to start off a podcast, but the way in which we think about AEO, GEO, LLM SEO, AI SEO, EIEIO, whatever you want to call it, is the same as I believe we should have been thinking before. We should have been always thinking, how can we create ridiculously valuable content that adds value to our customers' lives, that answers their questions, and then how can we distribute that on as many platforms as possible to reach the people who are there as well. So as much as we are in a new era, I kind of think we're in an era where we should have been doing this from the beginning.
You made a good point that people are optimizing really for like Google search optimization, not search optimization, because really YouTube is a search platform, becoming like a search engine now. Social media has its own search engine. You can go look on TikTok, on Instagram, and say best food in Vancouver,
anywhere.
And they'll come up. And or I'm looking for baby products for my 1-year-old, and things will come up and videos. So distributing content on all these platforms, these are search engines as well, and people are just focusing on the website. But you're not saying, just for letting people know, is to forget about the website at all.
No.
You're saying
no.
keep that foundation of the website, but distribute it on multiple channels.
Exactly. I don't want anyone to go tweeting and putting up on Threads or Blue Sky, hey, Ross Simmonds just said that SEO is dead and you don't need to create content on your website anymore. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is, yes, the fundamentals still matter, but what happens after you press publish on your website matters more than ever before. So you don't want to just have this content strategy that is rooted in this idea of we're going to blog every day. Those days are over. If all your team is telling you is, look, here's our content calendar, and we're going to press publish on a new blog post every Monday, and that's going to lead to success and AEO, GEO success, that's not accurate. You need to start thinking holistically. Press releases matter more than ever before. Mentions on Reddit matter more than ever before. YouTube videos matter more than ever before. How many positive reviews you have on Capterra, TrustRadius, G2, Yelp, TripAdvisor, all of those platforms matter now more than ever before. So you have to think holistically as a marketer. Does your website matter? 100%. But do other platforms now hold a bigger influence in the buyer decision that you probably don't even see? 100% as well.
I want you to give a little like a run through what this looks like, because I mean, the name content marketing itself plays into what you're trying to do, which is like you market content, and people think it's creating content is content marketing. So what does it look like? Give an example of, I'm a B2B company. I need to show up on these LLMs. What does it look like? What's the starting point of what you would recommend to someone?
So the first thing you need to do is do research into your buyers. I think every good strategy, every good marketer recognizes the importance of research. You're going to understand the queries, the questions that your customers have. And along the B2B buyer's journey, there's going to be a lot of different questions that get asked. At first, they might be asking, how do I solve a certain problem? Then eventually they might be asking, what is the best solution in this category? Or what is the top solution in this category? Or if they're a little bit more savvy, they might get very descriptive, and they might say something like, my company is an XYZ that solves ABC problems, and we have 500 staff members who need to be able to achieve X, Y, and Z by this date. Please make a recommendation for me around the tools that I can use to achieve this outcome. And then the LLM is going to take all of that, pick up a few nuances around the size of their company. They might call that enterprise. They might call it medium-sized business. Then they're going to look at what category you're in, and they're going to use that as a query that they're going to analyze. And then they're going to do multiple multiple searches at once. And this is what not a lot of people are realizing. It's not just like a one-shot search. There's multiple searches with variations of different queries. Then the LLM is going to look at the entire internet. It's going to scrape and look for those signals of, yes, it's recommending this platform on YouTube. It's recommending this platform based off of this Reddit thread from 2 years ago. It's using this comparison page that a company wrote to make a recommendation around this. It's going to pull all of these sources. Now, as a good marketer, you get all of this data and you're going to feel a little bit overwhelmed. You should drink a cup of coffee, calm down or ramp up depending on what coffee does to you. And then you're going to use that data to get insight into what you need to produce. So maybe you should produce on your website exact landing pages that speak to how your product solves problems for a certain category. And then you're going to scale that for every single ideal customer that you go after. Then you're going to create blog posts, maybe based off of the research, around your solution for that audience and why this audience would benefit from using your content. And you're going to create like a nice batch of content that solves their problems and talks about your product in the category with variations of prompts such as top, best, cheapest, most reliable. Speak pride and value into your product. Now, this is where the distribution piece comes in. You don't just press publish on these pieces. Some of these pieces might become carousels on LinkedIn. Some of them might become articles on LinkedIn. Some of them might become long form pieces that you submit on Reddit. Some of them might become threads on X. Some of them might become an actual brief that you give to 10 different YouTubers and ask those YouTubers to create content on that topic. Some of them might become press releases where you're announcing new features for this industry. Some of them might give you insights that you should probably go get an award for your product in this category. So let's go talk to the people who give out awards in your niche so you can then send out a press release about that and then write that on your website. You're going to look for all of these different opportunities to distribute your story. And then you do that 365 days a year. Then at the end of it, you're going to optimize it for recency because the LLMs want to know what is most recent and what is most timely. Now, for a lot of folks who are already overwhelmed from what we just said, we have never lived, Daniel, in a better time to be a marketer. Because of AI tools, because of technology, because of mobile devices, I think every marketer can do what used to take a team of 10 to 15 people. If you tap into Claude, if you tap into tools like distribution.ai, if you tap into Codex, ChatGPT, whatever tools are of your preference, if you can incorporate them into your workflows, you can produce and distribute so much more effectively now than ever before. There's never been a better time to be a marketer.
I agree on that point. And I think we're in and people are saying that it's going to hurt marketers, AI and all that stuff. And I actually think marketers are one of the jobs that are going to be the hardest to replace if you're good. If you're good, right. Yeah. A players will move up. If you're C, D, it'll be a little bit of a struggle, but you can work your way up the ladder. Yeah. But I want to ask about, I get a question a lot about Reddit, and I know Reddit is a big portion of, not a big portion, but it's like a sliver of like maybe 20 to 25% of searches look on Reddit. So, but Reddit is one of the hardest to crack, and I know you've been talking about Reddit for 10 years, and if people would have listened, they probably would have got more and more queries in these LLMs and shown up more. But what is the strategy if I want to get mentions get picked up on Reddit?
So you're spot on. Like the best time to be on Reddit was 10 years ago. The second best time is today. I wrote the book on Reddit many moons ago and preached at the top of my lungs, hey, marketers, you should be on Reddit. Everyone yelled at me. Even some people at Reddit yelled at me because they were like, don't do marketing here. Either way, it's all come around now. And we do tons of work on Reddit. And I'll give your listeners some strategies that they can embrace. So there's 3 key things that I want every marketer to inject into their veins when it comes to how to do marketing on Reddit. The first one is you need to start by listening. Reddit is, in my opinion, the best focus group for authentic, true feedback from customers who skew a little bit critical. And that is okay to lean into. You should lean into hearing the harsh truth from people so you can improve your product and you can get better as a business, as a marketer, as a storyteller, as a creator, as an entrepreneur, owner, whatever. That's the first piece. Now, the second piece is after you've listened, you've grown thick skin, you've taken in all the critique, you've absorbed it, how can you respond? There's two key things that you can do. One is you can go in with the intention of adding a ton of value. What does that mean? You go into subreddits. Subreddits are communities where people are talking about things that they're deeply passionate about. There's subreddits on barbecue, there's subreddits on kombucha, there's subreddits on your favorite TV shows, there's subreddits on marketing, on podcasting. For all I know, there might even be a subreddit focused on the marketing millennials, right? Like there could be a group of people talking about marketing millennials every day on Reddit. You go into that subreddit and you're going to sort the content by top posts. When you sort it by top posts, you're going to see the best content that that community, that niche, that group of people cared about in the last 365 days or of all time. And what I want you to do is analyze the top posts to get insight into what has content market fit, meaning the content that is sorted to the top of the thread is clearly content that got the people going, so let's give them more of it. If you notice that a certain subreddit loves guides, then give the people guides. And your goal as a marketer on Reddit will be to create as many valuable resources for the community as possible. Now, here's the third strategy. The third one is to create and foster a conversation about your brand in relevant or owned subreddits. So right now inside of subreddits, there are people who are having a discussion about what is the best CRM, what is the best platform for HVAC professionals, what are the best jeans, what are the best running shoes. These conversations are happening today. And if you fast forward 8 months, most of those conversations are going to be cited in LLMs and show up at the front page of Google because Google recognizes that people trust people, and the assumption is that Redditors are people, not bots. So you, as a brand, should be trying to facilitate and engage and contribute to the conversations where these dialogues are happening. And if you can do that and you're mentioning your brand, you're fostering a conversation, if your customers are going in and answering on your behalf and you're celebrating them, you're upvoting them, that content that lives there today will be the training data that the LLMs use tomorrow. So you are increasing your odds of being able to drive results in the future.
I think there's two paths I want to go down. One, the listen, leap, lurk, leap model, I think with some nuance should be on every platform. Like
for sure,
you shouldn't like go on LinkedIn or YouTube without like listening first, right, and kind of lurking. But I think the nuance I would give for other platforms is you have more flexibility in testing and putting out a lot of stuff without being dinged by other Redditors.
Like, for sure.
I think, and moderators. So I think that's good. But so that's new. But I want to talk about people have been talking about this it's been popular in B2C for a long time, but this human side of thing and like creator side of thing. And I want to know, like, I know Reddit is a place of humans, but how should you be injecting like a face, a human, a creator into these other channels that you're also doing that aren't necessarily skewed like this is a human first, but are LLMs looking for those real people talking about your brand as well outside of Reddit?
Yeah, I think it's very beneficial for humans to show up as humans on Reddit. I see a lot of people create accounts for their companies and their name is XOXK9 2024. And it's like, okay, what does that mean? But if you show up as Ross from Foundation or Ross from distribution or Ross from this brand, I think that's a more human way of showing up. Reddit likes it because you're being transparent and authentic. Humans like it because they know that they now have a direct connection to someone internally at this organization. there's a lot of examples of this being done well. And I think brands that lean into having a personified account are actually setting themselves up for long-term success because they are being transparent, they're being authentic, and they're showing up as the human. Now, icing on the cake would be if somebody who's showing up on Reddit as a representative of the brand also was representing the brand on LinkedIn and also was representing them on Instagram. That would be best in class. I don't think I've seen that yet, but I would love to see a brand that shows up consistently with like a spokesperson who is showing up on multiple channels as well. I think that would be gold.
Yeah, I mean, ideally it's like a founder or an executive, because a founder is most likely the one not going to leave the company.
True.
But then if you do, but this also goes into the point you made before, is when you're making content, like what is your distribution plan and where does the distribution lie? Does it lie? Do you have the ability as a company to create distribution yourself with your internal employees? Do they have the skill sets to do that? Or do I need to tap into distribution that, say, Ross has, because he has a community of marketers that follow and trust him? And so going back to what you've been talking about a lot, is you have to find your best ways to create distribution that isn't the guaranteed paid distribution that these social networks give you if you put a lot of money to it.
Exactly. Yeah. Like when you think of distribution, there's the paid, the earned, and the owned. And I think every organization should always be trying to establish a heavily skewed owned channel for distribution. On the paid side, we can all pay to play. If you don't have budget, more difficult, but pay to play is one methodology. Earned is when you are creating things that are so good that it's worth talking about, where people will distribute your content on your behalf. They'll feature your stats, they'll feature your charts, they'll talk about your product, they'll try on your products, they'll record videos about it. UGC succeeds here. You can also pay to drive a lot of that, which can also be nice. Those two are very much able to be manufactured. On the own side, some of them come from sweat equity, where it's like, I want to build up this newsletter. I want to build up this LinkedIn page and build this LinkedIn page by consistently every day going out and finding cool content that's relevant to my audience. Or I'm going to put in the energy to grow a podcast that's going to hit subscribers, or a YouTube channel. Or you could take a cheat code, right? Like I think it was probably 2009 when I bought a Facebook page. Like I wanted to grow an account for this brand that I was running. And I reached out to the owner of this Facebook page. I sent them a DM and I was like, hey, you haven't posted in like 3 months. Can I buy this from you? And they sold me a page with 20,000 members for about, I think, $5,000. And then I was able to make $5,000 in like 2 weeks of promoting a guide in a book that served that audience. So there are arbitrage opportunities that you can also find that I think give you own distribution, such as subreddits, such as Facebook groups, such as, I don't know, do LinkedIn groups still exist? If they do, like maybe that's a play. Like those types of things, Slack groups, like there's some that are probably dormant. Can you bring them back to life? There's so much opportunity in owning your distribution channels.
And I would argue the best way to find out before you pay to play is doing on platforms that have organic attention, because you actually will know if it's good content or not. Like you could distribute a piece of content you think is amazing and pay to play, and you're just blowing money because nobody said that was a good piece of content. Or you could do it the organic way, see what ideas are getting traction, and then put money behind it, because that's the best way to put money behind something, is it already works and you're just putting extra fire on
100%. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that I see a lot of enterprise brands make. They will spend tens, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars to produce a report that they think is thought leadership, that they think is the most mind-blowing thing. But the market doesn't care. The market doesn't care about their belief, but they put so much energy into it, and then they'll put money behind it and it gets no engagement, no likes, no shares, no downloads. And everybody's left like, Does thought leadership work? But they didn't lead any thoughts. They just regurgitated things that was already known, and they wrapped it in a nice PDF, and internally they felt good about producing it, but no one cares. So like my biggest piece of advice is exactly what you said, Daniel. Like brands need to test and be comfortable experimenting with getting their stories out there and then seeing the signal that a story works before going so deep down the road of like, let's spend $1 million to produce a video on this when nobody's going to care. Like you have to have that validation that a story is worthwhile, unless you have the it factor. Like some brands and some creative directors and leaders will know what good looks like, but I'd argue most people don't. Most people have no idea.
Yeah, taste comes from doing it a lot. So that's I think that, but I always think about it as like a science experiment. Like you have to go into like your own channels or rented channels and test a hypothesis that you're trying to say. So like, because a research report or a guide should be answering a question you're trying to like, your audience is trying to like solve or trying to go deeper in. So if you're writing a report on a topic that the hypothesis hasn't been proven that people care about it, then you wasted all that time. So that's why I always say like test the hypothesis and test like angles of it, and then go to like creators and other people and surveys to prove or disprove if this hypothesis is true or not. And that's what scientists do with like,
it's true.
They don't just get money to like do something that is fake. They have to have some sort of traction for people to put money behind their scientific project.
Exactly. That's what I love about social, because I think that with social, you're able to experiment at a lower risk and at a lower cost. So if you have an idea, if you have a belief, if you have a viewpoint or a perspective, you can go on X and send out a post. And if you get no retweets, maybe nobody cares. If you get a lot of retweets, you get a lot of shares, a lot of comments, a lot of replies, you've hit something. You've struck a chord of some sort. You could take an Instagram video, same thing. You can create a video. Takes a few minutes to record a video, upload it. People respond. How did they engage? Maybe you do it on your story. Did you get any reactions? Same with on Reddit. You can go into a subreddit where your ICP is, put up a post. Doesn't take a lot of time. You can do it while you're walking, wherever, and see how people respond. If you get engagement, then it should be a signal for you. And if that signal is that people care, then maybe you can make this bigger. Maybe you can repurpose it. Maybe you can actually run an ad promoting it. Like, look for signals that people care about a topic or a subject or an idea, and then go deeper. It's the same thing as what this whole distribution angle for me came from. It was like 2010, and I tweeted out a post that was like, create once, distribute forever. And it went viral. And I was like, I'm on to something. I'm going to go deeper down this path of talking about distribution. So with marketers, I think it's important to look for signals of this could be successful, and then go deeper there.
Yeah, and I think one thing is like you don't give up if one of your angles is wrong. Like you probably like work that one-liner
over
a couple times
over and over
to
again.
get to like that one-liner that you knew was true, but that people would understand in the simplest terms what to do. And that's where I think a lot of people mess up too, is like, you got to refine the hook of like what you're trying to say in the simplest form that someone is going to understand. I mean, I just think that people underestimate that if it works on one platform and you just know with another platform how to speak the language of another platform, it's going to work on another platform.
It's true.
Like I've taken viral posts from Twitter, moved it to LinkedIn, moved it to Instagram, but I just tweaked the format and how it works, and it went viral. And that's, some would say that's taste, but I would just say that's just like taking something that worked and refining it. Yeah.
So, I don't know who said it. Great artists don't copy, they steal. It's like, if something is working, then take inspiration from it, modify it, tweak it for the platform, for the audience, and then give it to the people.
Because I know we started off with this AEO, GEO, SEO, like talk track. I want to go into it a little deeper because I think there'd be some questions on like, okay, like attribution, since it's like zero click, or how do I find my search terms that I should go for now that they're on LLMs? Like I can't just Google it. So what is like your, like the how of like reverse engineering LLMs to get to where you want to,
for sure,
to find out what to do?
So the first starting point is to understand search intent. So the same search intent philosophies that we had for Google matter with LLMs. So when people are looking for things, they typically have an intention. It's either an informational intent, navigational intent, commercial intent, or transactional intent. If it's informational, it means that they're looking for information and answers. For example, if I ask a platform, what is the best Disney movie of all time? I'm simply looking for information, and I want the LLM to tell me that Mulan is the best Disney movie of all time. If I'm looking for a transaction, I might say, I want to buy a pair of Nike shoes, whatever it might be. That's a transactional query. Commercial might be, I'm trying to decide between Nike and Adidas. That's a more commercial intent where I'm deciding between two things. And then the final one is navigational, which is where I'm saying, I just want to go to Marketing Millennials website or find me the Marketing Millennials podcast, and I want the internet to navigate me there. For most brands, a lot of the questions that fall into each of those buckets will have low value, meaning they're not actually worth that much to them, because at the end of the day, that person isn't close to swiping a credit card or filling out a form to get a demo. So what you actually care about are the commercial and transactional queries that people would ask Google, but then you modify that to what they would ask an LLM. And those become what in the AI tracking world, we're calling prompts. So you are tracking those different prompts on a regular basis. And depending on your tool of choice, there are a ton of them. You can use Profound, you can use AirOps, you can use HubSpot AEO, you can use Peak, you can use Scrunch. There's so many of these AI tracking tools. You upload all of your prompts, and it's going to run an analysis every single day of those prompts against ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, more expensive, but they'll do it, Grok, all of these things. And it's going to give you an insight into what websites are being cited when those prompts are used. The reason why I love to focus on commercial and transactional is because it's closer to the dollar, but it's also the ones that are going to influence your buyers and help you determine whether or not you are able to influence your buyers to choose you over a competitor. Now, once you are tracking all of that, you're going to do pretty much everything that me and Daniel have already discussed today. You're going to create the YouTube videos, you're going to create the website pages, you're going to do landing pages, blog posts, all of those things. But how do you know if you're moving the needle? There are three simple things that I think every marketer who is actually caring about AI visibility needs to focus on. One is, once your prompts are being tracked, you're going to look at your share of voice in the model. So how often is your brand showing up for these queries versus competitors? And if you see that a competitor is outranking you in the share of voice, then you're going to do things to move them down and move you up. That is one metric. The second thing that I want you to do, and your CRO team might hate this, but on your website, what I would encourage people to do is actually have a form that says after they fill out, after they book a demo, after they buy, ask the question, how did you hear about us? If your sales team facilitates the sales call, ask them on the call, how did you hear about us? And when they say ChatGPT, when they say Claude, when they say Perplexity, keep it track inside of your CRM. And if you're a really good salesperson, maybe say, could you show me the prompt that you used to track that? And then maybe they'll even give you a glimpse into the prompt that they used and show you the entire conversation. That's next level. That's like Jedi stuff, but that's what you want to get to. Now, the third thing that you can track is referral traffic. So with the first two metrics, you're able to see share of voice, you're able to see actual conversions connected to LLM optimization. And then the third one is referral traffic. Do not expect the world from this, folks. Like, people are not clicking a lot of the citations, they're getting their answers and then they're going to direct traffic, which I also believe you should be measuring as a part of your AI visibility efforts. Direct traffic means people might have heard of you from Google, etc., and then they just went directly to your site. But you want to track referral traffic. How often are you generating organic traffic or referral traffic, directly from these sources? Those are the 3 things that I would use to measure it. So let me recap it really quickly. Upload all of your prompts using search intent as the primary update efforts. You're going to make sure you're focused on commercial and transactional. You're going to do a whole bunch of things like reviews, YouTube, Reddit, blogs, website landing pages, UGC, all of that stuff to increase your visibility. Then you're going to monitor it inside of the platform that you choose, keeping track of your share of voice versus competitors. You're going to track referral traffic from the various LLMs, and you're going to beg and plead for your team to allow you to ask your customers how they heard about you so you can source revenue and dollars directly back to LLM visibility.
One thing I also want to ask you, because we talked about at the beginning how like AI can do 10 jobs that a marketer couldn't do before. We also talked about distribution, but I also am seeing like that it's given the ability, but now there's a bunch of like distribution slop out there. It isn't like, so how do you get above the distribution slop? And that's because I think you're still going to lose if you have distribution slop, because at the end of the day, you are marketing content. So marketing needs to be better than the average to stand out. So how are you recommending the distribution using AI, but in a way that comes out as a good end product?
Yeah. If you give a bad marketer AI, you're going to get bad content. If you give a good marketer AI, you're going to get good content faster. If you give a great marketer AI, you'll get great content faster. I think AI is an accelerant for everyone. And depending on the marketer, you're either going to accelerate slop, you're going to accelerate goodness, greatness, or something magical that we've never seen before. The most important thing for every marketer who's going to embrace AI, which I recommend you do, is to ensure that you are setting it up so the AI is trained on your voice, or that you don't even touch it until you actually find your own voice. I think cracking the code of understanding your voice, your brand's voice, and then uploading and creating an MD file or some type of memory within the LLM that picks up on the nuances of your tone, that picks up on the nuances of what an AI ism is and ensures that you don't mention it. Those things are key. So like my biggest piece of advice to marketers is to upload a brand voice, upload brand guidelines, upload the things that you don't want an AI to say. So long M dashes, as much as I love them, maybe you upload into the memory of your LLM that you don't do that, right? When we built distribution.ai, because we recognized the rise of AI slop, we wanted to give our users full control over their ability to make sure it sounded like them. So you can upload your own style guide, you can upload your own voice guide, you can say, I never say in the ever-evolving world of, we have removed all of the delves and all of the things, the syntax that an AI would sound like, to make sure that it sounds a little bit more human. So the key is to make AI work for you and not to just outsource your taste, your thinking, and your entire voice to an LLM.
I'll go a step further with that too. Because at the end of the day, if you're trying to optimize for your whole team, like if you have your own instance of Claude or your own instance, it's hard to like make sure that everybody gets it. So I like to create like either a Notion page or something else and then continuously update it outside where people could pull from that. So I'll be like, if it's doing too many M dashes or is doing too many things that aren't me, I'll update the Notion file, update that file outside where everybody has access to.
I love that.
So people could write for, and if this is for if you're writing as your CEO or someone else, there's also another way if you're trying to do a brand voice, like your brand voice is supposed to be ever evolving. It's changing. True. It's not the same thing. And one doc is never going to be enough. So you need to add like, don't do the dull, like say diving into it. Don't have extra M dashes. Don't we say this and not that, we say that and not this, into a place where it's shared, because you don't want it to be in one person's memory. It's like the same problem where like people didn't document before their like processes, and then that person left the company, and then you had to redo the whole thing. So I think MD files are great if people are really good at sharing the MD file. But the problem with MD files is you got to keep sending the new one, otherwise. So that's my extra step I would add that I think I've done, because I've seen the mistake of me doing an MD file and then people writing not in my in the brand voice of the Marketing Millennials.
I love that. Keeping it reactively fresh and up to date with the current trends, as well as your own voice and things that might be shifting. Because even our opinions change on things, right? Like if you use the same memory from 2024 and I've shifted my perspective, then you might say things that I used to believe that I didn't. So I love that take. Good call.
I want to ask you one last thing about, like, I know distribution would be one answer, but besides distribution, what are like most companies that come to you lacking when you see them not finding success on search, on content, on AEO, whatever acronym they want to name your search? What are people coming to you that are like not? What's the common thread?
The biggest issue with the way that most marketing teams have been built is that they are in these silos that don't allow them to work together to achieve the overarching goal of increasing their AI visibility and their source revenue from AI visibility, because they are in different worlds. Like the PR team matters so much more for an AI visibility and SEO, GEO, AI SEO world than ever before. The social team matters more than ever before for this entire equation. The SEO team is sometimes separate from the website team. Both of those teams need to have a seat at the table. The brand team, the influencer team, all of these different teams, for some reason in a lot of these organizations, have never worked together. They've been given separate metrics. They've been given separate paths of what success looks like, and they are not being given a collective metric around we all need to work together to increase our AI visibility. I think this is a gift to CMOs. I think now CMOs should finally wake up to the fact that they should have never broken everything out into a silo, and that the team itself should have always been focused on the overarching brand success in the eyes of the customer. And together, we now have a clear metric in AI visibility to see whether or not our teams are working together. Because if you're not able to get your social team to be active or managing a subreddit or engaging in Reddit, then you're in trouble. If you can't get your social team to work well with customer support, who needs to possibly answer some of the negative feedback you're getting about your latest product launch, you're going to have some problems. If you don't have your PR team ready to distribute content that is related to awards that maybe your marketing team has spun up or that review sites are giving you, and they can't quickly send out a press release, and they are stuck in their own way of not being able to break the usual format for how they do PR and outreach, you're going to have a very hard time. Not to mention, now with the rise of YouTube and you being able to influence both Google and LLMs with YouTube content, the team that used to own YouTube might now have additional eyes on them saying, why are our thumbnails so bad? Why do none of our titles actually make sense? And why do we keep using our own brand name at the beginning of each thumbnail? Why are we calling it webinar when no one types that in when they're looking for our content? These are the questions that your YouTube team are now going to have. Now, if that YouTube team sits under social, they might be wondering, well, we haven't even been promoting these videos on our YouTube, like on our social accounts. Content teams might say, we haven't even been embedding these YouTube videos on blog posts or landing pages. And the SEO team might say, we haven't optimized any of these for search, whether it's the title, the description, the thumbnails, etc. So the biggest problem that we see at foundation on a regular basis is companies coming in. They're like, we want to increase our visibility in AI, but they have teams that are so fragmented that we then need to do education to help all of the teams come together, to work together, and then achieve certain outcomes as a unit instead of in isolated silos. And to me, it's a beautiful thing. That's how we should have been doing it from the beginning.
Yeah, I've always had the hill that I would die on, that as a marketer, like, you should be a T-shaped marketer and understand that your role in SEO and your role in social, how it impacts the whole of marketing, or actually the whole of business, to be honest. Let's just do the whole of marketing in general. So if you were in social and know that AEO is important to social, then you would know, to achieve my goal as a social person, I need to go work with those other teams. And I understand maybe the high level of how AEO works. You don't have to go learn the whole craft and be an expert, but you should know that how AEO impacts social, how search impacts social, how paid social impacts your organic social, how demand gen team is going to do it, how whatever your whole org, you should know how it's impacting your role so you could do your role better. And I think the opposite is true too, which you said is like all marketing teams should set a goal that is not silo based. It's team based. It's like the opposite of what I'm saying, which is like team. And then everybody will work their way to T-shaped marketers, because if it is a whole company goal, you have to understand those roles to do your job better. So
like you're seeing shorts, you're seeing TikToks, you're seeing Instagram reels show up in the SERP, show up in citations on LLMs. It's the best time for someone who's even in social to be thinking about other metrics and stop thinking exclusively around impressions, likes, engagement rates. Those things matter. Don't get me wrong. But you also now are making yourself more valuable because you're impacting other areas of the business. That's why I say it's the best time to be a marketer. We all have a role to play now.
Lastly, I mean, I just said my hill to die on. What would be your hill to die on as a marketer?
Ooh, my hill to die on is that every year, probably by Q4, most brands have created enough content. And what they really should do at that point is probably just replay the greatest hits and stop being on the hamster wheel of create. And they should probably tap into something that they produce that had a signal of it being a banger, but they got stuck on that hamster wheel and they kept going and doing the same thing instead of reusing that. That would be one of the hills that I would die on for sure. And I think the last one, which is far out thinking, but I think autonomous vehicles are going to fundamentally change the way that all of us do marketing, and no one has caught on to it yet. But marketing inside of vehicles when nobody is driving is going to change the world.
I love that take, because that's like a future take. It's like your Reddit take. And 10 years from now, we're going to be in the podcast and talk about that. Why haven't people marketed in autonomous vehicles? I think, but you're already seeing it kind of like, whatever's on the screen, even as apps, like if Spotify is on it or versus Pandora or somewhat, like whatever app's on there is like a download for an app that you might have on your phone. But I want to go back to that hill you would die on, like the hill you die on, like remixing greatest hits. I think fundamentally it gets hard for marketers when people are telling them that your goal is to create 30 pieces of content because it's going to help AEO, GEO and stuff, where you could create 30 pieces of content based on a content that you already created that knows will work. You're thinking about like creating a bunch of new 30 pieces of content. Right. And I think that's where people get screwed as marketers. Like we have these like audacious goal to produce a lot of pieces of content, but like we could just be remixing greatest hits till they die. Just like people have said it forever, like, don't turn off an ad if it's still working. You don't turn off a piece of content. Like you haven't turned off your create one, distribute forever because it's still working and it still matters.
I think it's getting hotter now. It's hotter now than it ever was. Yeah, I think that's exactly it. Like I would even argue last year, some people created some great pieces of content that drove revenue, sales, pipeline, leads that they could run again and they would see success. But everyone has short-term memories. And I think here's the other piece, because as a marketer, we are obsessed with the brands that we work with. We are obsessed with the brands that we serve, that we're in, etc. If you're in-house, and you see it every day. And you might assume that everyone knows that this thing went live, but nobody knows. Everyone has so many other problems and challenges. They are completely distracted. So promote the thing that you created. Promote your business. No one knows that you just launched. No one knows that you just got a new job. Very few people know. So promote yourself, promote your content, and get over the fear of being judged by other people for being too promotional, all of that stuff.
I'll end on that. I think you have to, in life as a marketer, like you have to be your own hype person, whether it's internally, online. Like you think your boss is going to be your best hype person. You think your coworkers, but like at the end of the day, everybody has a selfish tendency. Even if you're like the best person, we're wired as humans to be for ourselves a little bit, because that's survival.
That's it.
So yeah. Lastly, where can people find what you're doing? I know you have 5 different things you're doing at once.
Yeah.
So where can they find all of that?
I mean, if they're listening to this, they should check out the Ross Simmonds Show, which is my podcast. They should definitely subscribe, check out some of my recent episodes. If they're finding this on video, then check me out on YouTube. And if you're on any of the platforms, just give me a search, Ross Simmonds, and then give me an ad. If it's on LinkedIn, be sure to let me know in the notes that the Marketing Millennials and Daniel sent you so I can accept your connection request. But yeah, folks can find me all over the internet. But before we wrap, I do want to say thank you, Daniel, for having me back on. Always a blast chatting with you. I love the content that you've put out for the last few years to the market, to the community, for the industry at large, and helping marketing marketers, marketing professionals at large just get better at their craft. So keep doing what you're doing. I hope to see it last for another 10 to 15 years.
I hope we're both still around, because I've been watching you for the last 5 to 10 years online, and you've been crushing it. So it's like, lasting long is the hardest part of creating content.
That's true.
That's true. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you.
Anytime.
Thanks so much for listening. Keep tuning in to hear more great insights from the coolest marketers from around the world. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and follow the Marketing Millennials podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. And if you like what you hear, I would greatly appreciate you giving us a 5-star rating. It helps bring more marketers into our community.